Hello everyone, today I'm going to explain you how you can properly and correctly use a graphic calculator called Desmos. Now, it's ideal for you to know how to use it if you're having exams such as SAT and so on. Desmos is a graphic calculator and also at the same time it's just a normal calculator. Now, what I mean by normal is you can use it as a casual calculator. You can do everything you want basically, but things they do not stop in here. What if we have a linear equation? Let me just say a random linear equation. And as you can see, if I write this, Desmos will display my linear equation and an xy plane right here. So I actually can see there's the intersection points and so much more. And today we will solve some questions, we will do a lot of practice, and I will explain you methods, cool methods, and unique methods that you can apply when solving SAT questions. Now, let's start by solving an easy question. We have our function, which is f of x, and it equals to this. We are asked what is the value of f of x when x equals to 2. Now, all we have to do is just plug in this 2 right here. But first of all, let me write my function. The way I would write function, just write the letter f. It doesn't matter, it's just a letter. You could write h of x, doesn't matter. And let me write the rest of my function. So my function is done. It looks something like this, like a black line. Here's the thing. We are asked for the value when x equals to 2. I can just open f and or write f and open parentheses, and I can plug in my x values in here. Okay, and x value in this case, it would actually equal to 80, which means that our answer is C. Now, things do not stop in here. What if you were asked for the value of, let's say, when y value equals to 10, what is your x value? Here's the thing, y value is considered for us our whole function, which is f of x. Not just x, but f of x in total. Now, there is a specific way we can say f of because we don't know the value of x and we're looking for it, let's call it a random value, a random letter, I would say. Let's just pick, I don't know, the letter B. I just want to pick the letter B. Doesn't matter which letter you pick. And let's close the parentheses. Now, when I plug in this B, or let's say x, my output, it should equal to 10, right? And now, here's the thing. You would probably just go and equalize it to 10, but it doesn't work this way because I don't know the value of b. The reason why is the only method that we can use in here is we have to use regression sign. Now, here's a cool feature about this regression sign. Um, when you have an unknown letter, and in this case we have an unknown letter, which is B, we use regression sign instead of the regular equalizing sign. And in this case, it will just give you your value right away. So just remember this, whenever you have any values or any letters that you don't know the values for, just use the regression sign. And we will apply it to practice a bit later. For example, let's take a look at this question. Now, let me again rewrite my whole equation formula, which is 4x plus b. Now, we don't need to add a slider for now. We will talk about it a bit later. So let's just move on. Now, we are told that when f of 7, like when we plug in 7 instead of x, we get 28. This is our output, right? And because we have an unknown letter, which is b, I again have to use that regression. So f of 7, I cannot say it equals to 28. It will not work. As you can see, it produces an error. Only because of of this b right here, I have to use a regression sign. And in this case, the value of b, it will be equal to 0. So the correct answer will in fact be answer choice A. Okay, let's look at this question. By the way, if you need more time, please feel free to pause the video and take your time to read the question itself. Now, here's the part that we need to pay attention to. X is the monthly payment, and we are asked what is the total cost to lease a car when the monthly payment is 400. So the value of X is 400, and we need to get basically the value of Y. Now, I wrote my function. All I need to do is just write F and plug in that 400, and my output will be 15,400, which means answer choice C. Okay, let me show you this question. Now, this is a table, and let me create a table in Desmos, and let me put all of the values that I have. These are all of the coordinates, and we are told that this is a linear function. Because it's a linear function, if you have two or more coordinates, this button right here, it will appear, which is an add regression button. You have two options of solving this question. First, you can just click it. If you don't have a specific formula, it's just a regular linear function formula, which is, by the way, y equals to mx plus b. Then you're good to go. As you can see, answer choice is exactly what we need. But there's also a second option, uh, and please make sure that you pay attention to this part. When we use a regression sign, which is basically this sign right here, whenever we see x, we must change it to x1, and whenever we see y, we must change it to y1. Basically, we're changing them into a constant, so this just means a random letter. For example, it means the letter B or C. Desmos just does not accept these values when we write just x and just y whenever we're using the regression sign. Just keep that in your minds and you'll be good to go. Now let me rewrite the formula. Y1 regression sign mx1 plus b. And where did I get this formula? It's just a normal linear equation formula that we all should know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Desmos takes the coordinates from here and it tries to find the values that are suitable for us. In this case, again, the correct answer is answer choice C.
Okay, so let's look at this question. We have two ways of how we can solve this question. First of all, we can try the table method because we have two coordinates. And let me plug in the coordinates. After I plug in, I actually see that this, our function, is an exponential function. This is not a linear function or anything like this. So, and here's our formula. But what if we click add regression button? In this case, because we have a power, it will be an exponential function. So we can change the linear regression to a exponential. But our answer looks really, really bad. And there is a specific reason behind it. The Desmos' built-in formula is a little bit different. Multiplied by b to the power of x. This is our formula, this is our built-in formula. But in our case, we have a different formula. So we will not use the add regression button, and we will provide the formula ourselves, just as I'm doing it right there. I'm just rewriting the formula. Okay, and after this, we can see our values a and b, and a plus b will equal to negative 336. So that was our first method, but we also have a second method, which is my favorite. Now, in this method, we have a thing called listing, and we usually list things using square brackets. And in here, you can write two or more values. You can also write one value, but still, you have to separate them through comma, just as I'm showing it right here. 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, and so on, basically. But because we are using it for a function, it's a little bit different. The situations are a little bit different. The way we should write it is we should write first the letter F, and again, I will use those square brackets. So I write the letter F as because we have the letter F. I will open just parentheses. Remember this part. And after them, I have to open the square brackets. And in here, please pay attention to this part. We Firstly, let me rewrite the coordinate that we're provided with, which is 3 and 0, and 0 and negative 342. Let's just say that 3 is x1 and 0 is y1. So the other 0 will be x2 and the other y coordinate will be y2. Doesn't matter in which order, you could swap the coordinates and that'll be fine. Now, the way that we write this is on the left part, we write our x values, which will be x1, comma, x2. Okay, let me close everything. And please make sure to write it this way. After closing, I will use a regression sign, and the second time, I don't need any parentheses. I only need the square brackets, as you can see in here. And let me write the y values on the right part. I have to write my y values on the right part. So let me just write y1, and afterwards I will just write y2. That's it. Okay, and yeah, please make sure that if your x1 goes first in the first parentheses or the left part, then your y1 must come also first on the right part. You cannot say x1 and then say y2, for example. That will not match. It's not correct. And let me plug everything into Desmos. And for this method to work, you actually have to write the formula, which we have gladly, and it is a to the power of x plus b. Okay, and after this, you just copy paste everything that I wrote basically. F of, we open parentheses and then square brackets. And in here we will write our x values, which is 3 and 0. And on the right part we write our y values, which is 0 and negative 342. Just as I'm writing it in here. Okay, we get the same answers. It's a plus b. But you might be wondering, why this method? Why would you choose this method over the other one? For me personally, this method is way more convenient. What if you were asked, for example, what is the value of f of 2? You can just say f of 2 and it will give you right away because we already have our own formula. But on the other hand, if we were to solve it using the table, things will be a little bit different. And as you can see here, I returned to our previous solution. And in this case, I just have to re-give the formula. And because Desmos knows the value of A and the value of B, it's like in its memory, I don't have to write them by hand. It will be enough if I just write the letters. And as you can see, it's like one additional step, right? And that is the reason why I don't like it, but it's a personal preference. You can choose which one's more comfortable for you.
Okay, let's try to solve this question now. This is a really, really interesting topic on the SAT, and you can actually solve this using Desmos. Now, we are told that the solutions of this equation equals this one. It's one of the solutions. And we are asked for the value of h plus k. Now, for us, a solution is considered, let's say, let me actually demonstrate it to you. Now, I wrote a random function, a random quadratic function that came to my mind. For us, a solution is considered when our parabola intersects the x-axis, which is this part, and in this case, it intersects us twice. In this case, it is negative 4 and 0, and negative 1 and 0. Now, here's what I need you to look for. When we plug negative 4 in our function instead of x, our output is 0. And when we plug negative 1, our output is again 0. What does it mean? For us, a solution is whenever the value of y it equals to 0. Just please keep this in mind because we will need it a bit later. And now, if you were to solve it by hand, for you, you would find your solutions. Let's say you have two solutions. x1, it would equal to negative b plus, let's say plus the square root of discriminant divided by 2a. This is your formula. But what if you have a second root? And it's the same thing, but in this case we use plus, but for the second one we'll just change that sign and use a negative sign, and everything stays the same. By the way, you would get these values from this equation form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, and discriminant is discriminant. Now, just remember this part that in one case we use plus and the other one we use negative sign. Let me rewrite this equation with x1. So 2x1 squared plus 12x1 minus 17. And do you remember that I just showed recently that for us a solution is whenever we put that value, let's say a solution is -7. When I put -7 instead of the x, the output should equal to 0. That's why I will use a regression for this and equalize it to 0. Now you will see why. And I will put my solutions instead of x1. That's why I'm using x1. And in this case, because I have two solutions, let's say I have two solutions like x1 and x2, I will use so we'll use square brackets because I can put two or more values. Now my first solution is h minus 1 over 2 square root of k. Now I will write comma, and the second one, if this is with minus or a negative sign, then the second one will be with a plus sign, right? Or a positive sign. So it will be h plus 1 over 2 square root of k. And if I do that, what Desmos does is it just plugs in these values and they should give me 0. And that's why Desmos is able to give out for us our answers. And h plus k, it will equal to 67. That's it. Now, we can also solve this type of questions using Desmos. We can use, again, the square brackets. On the left part, we will, let's say, write this and write this. And on the right part, we will write this and this. Basically, everything that is to the left of the equal sign, I will write it on the left part. And everything that is right to the equal sign or of the equal sign, I will write it on the right part. Um, Again, at the end of the video, I will show you how you can actually plug the roots like this and etc. So if you don't know how to do them on Desmos, please make sure to watch everything that I will include on the last part. Okay, let's just start plugging. I will write this, and we are told that the fourth root of p squared, this is my left part, comma, and let me write t, they should give me. When I plug this, I get square root of t. Okay, great. And when I write t, I get this part. Okay, great. Let me just again insert it. So p to the power of, and please, when you have this type of power, which is like negative sign, plus sign, use parentheses before writing. Because if you don't do so, when you want to add a negative sign or plus sign, Desmos will not allow you. So just put parentheses and say 3n minus 2. That's it. And now we are told we have specific requirements. P is greater than 1 and T is also greater than 1. I can actually give those requirements into Desmos. For those requirements, I use curly braces, this type of braces, and I can give a parameter one at a time. So p is greater than 1, and then again t is greater than 1. And in this case, I will get, oops, I wrote it miscorrectly, t is greater than 1. In this case, I will get that the value of n, it equals to 1. So the correct answer is in fact answer choice A. Here's another type of question that you might encounter on your next exam. In this case, we have our table. Let's just plug in every value that we have, which is -24, -15 and 12, and -10 and 36. Okay, we have a specific formula, so we will be using this formula. And we are told that f is a linear function. Now, I cannot write in Desmos like this. Desmos will not understand that it's a linear function. So I know that it's a linear function simply because I am told that it's a linear function. And linear function's equation was mx plus b, right? So let me just change the f of x in here to mx plus b. I will write it like this. y1 equals to mx1 plus b divided by x1 plus 5. And if I do so, I will get every value that I need. And I am asked for the value of y-intercept of the graph of f of x. F of x, it will basically equal to mx plus b. And the y-intercept is when our x value equals to 0. So f of 0 will just give me negative 300, which is answer choice D. Now, the cool features of Desmos, they do not stop there. We have an equation and we are told that it has exactly one distinct real solution. What is the value of a? Now, let me just write everything that I see for now. Y equals to negative 1 over 5, 1.5, I'm sorry. And then again, y equals to x squared plus 8x plus a. In this case, I will in fact add a slider. And if I add a slider, I see a parabola and a straight line, or just a line for now. Okay, now because it has one solution, this line it needs to intersect my parabola only once. But in this case, it intersects it twice, which is not good for us. And we can actually play with the value of a. Now, as I can see, if it's a negative value, it will go down. We will always have two solutions. And if it's a positive, it gets up. Click on this. You can put your restrictions. Let's say I want it to be up until 25. And let's check. As I can see, this is close somewhere in here. When I put for A 14.6, the parabola does not touch our line, but we need it to touch exactly in one point. What if we put 14.5? And in this case, let me just click this. If we have this gray dot right here, that means that they're intersecting. So when I put for A 14.5, our parabola and our line will intersect at exactly one point, and we will have exactly one distinct solution. So the value of A, it equals to 14.5. That's it. Now, the cool features of Desmos, they do not end there. First of all, we need to look for the product of the solutions, and we have a formula which is C over A. It means the product of solutions. And how I got this C over A is basically again this formula, this equation formula, ax squared plus bx plus c, and I got them from here. A is to the left of x squared, b is to the left of x, and c is just anything that is left. And in this case, a will be 57, b will be this part, and c will be this part. And we are told that the product is KAB. So let's use this formula right here. C is AB, so AB divided by 57. And because we have letters that I don't know the values of, I will use regression again. And this equals to KAB. We're told that. The value of K, it looks relatively weird, but thanks to Desmos, we can actually turn it into a fraction. Just write K, and when it's possible, you can just click this letter, or you can just click this button and it will turn it into a fraction. So the correct answer will in fact be answer choice A. Now, the Desmos, it does not stop only on just lines and parabolas. We can also solve some circle problems with this. We have an equation of a circle. Let me just write this in. I will just write whatever I see, basically. And now, when I write it this way, a circle appears. Here's the thing, we need to find the radius of a circle. There is one way in how you can find it. There's one way by which you can find your radius. You have to look for the highest and for the lowest value of your circle. In this case, please don't trick it with the intersection point. For you, the highest value will be this part, and the lowest value will be this part right here. Please don't trick between those two. Now, let's just assign them random letters. Let's say it's A and let's say it's B. Doesn't matter. We have a specific formula in Desmos called distance. Let's use it. I just have to write distance and open the parentheses. And in here, I just will write A, comma, B. Now, it found the value 20, but what is 20? It's not our radius from this red part up until this blue part, which is our diameter of the circle, right? And as we all know, the diameter, it equals 2 multiplied by the radius. It's a formula. Diameter equals 2 multiplied by radius. So if I just divide it by 2, I will get what my radius equals to, and it equals to 10. That's it.
You can also solve this type of questions using Desmos, and all you have to do is just plug in the function that you see, and you will see your solutions. Let me just plug in everything, and after I do so, I can see that I have two solutions. The negative solution is negative 13. Let's just remember that. And our positive solution, it will be 27. And we are asked what is the sum of the solutions. So it will be negative 13 plus 27. And if I add them, I will get 14. The answer is B. Now, we can also solve this type of questions using Desmos. All we have to do is just plug in what we're given, but in this case, we have different signs, so we need to be a little bit careful. I will talk about that a little bit soon. So I plugged in everything, and in this case, for me, a solution is considered the parts based the colored parts. So the white parts, they are not our solutions. Only the blue parts are our solutions that satisfy our equation. But the thing that we need to be careful about is, in this case, we have these dashes, right? So 0.0 and 4 are not our solution. We cannot take that as a solution. But what if we had this sign right here? In this case, those dashes, they turn into a straight line. That's why I can say that 0 and 4 will in fact be my solution. Okay, let's get back to our question. Let me fix this and let me write the second equation. Let me just go on copy and paste it. And a second color appears, right? In this case, uh, the place where both of those colors fall, they will be your solutions. Please be careful again. Just try to find where your colors fall. And let's create a table for comfort. I mean, usually we don't write our coordinates like this, but if I create a table, it will be way more comfortable because if I do so, it will just, as you can see in here, it just displays the coordinate. And because it touches only the blue line and it touches the border of it, this is not our solution. So we have to get rid of answer choice A. And let's plug in, for example, answer choice C. Answer choice C falls only on the purple line which does not satisfy us because it has to fall on both of the lines. And only when we plug in the answer choice D, our dot or our coordinate will fall on the place where both of the colors intersect. That's our solution. And now, this is our last question of the day. It touches the topic of factors. You can actually solve this question using Desmos, and it's really, really easy. All you have to do in this case is just plug in the equation that you're given and look at the roots. That's all you need to do in this case. Let me just, again, write everything that I have. And for me, a solution is considered whenever my parabola touches the x-axis, and these are my two solutions, which are also at the same time my factors. I can equalize it to zero. It's the same thing. It will just, I will see them right away. My solutions or my factors, however you want to call them. And now what we can do is we can actually plug in the first and the second options. Let's plug in, for example, the first option, and please make sure to equalize it to zero. And if I do so, I will see that it falls exactly on my purple line. That means that this is one of our factors. That's why this answer choice, or like the first one, it will be the correct one. And let's plug in the second one and see whether it works for us or not. Now, as we can see, the second one is far away from our factors. So, answer choice 2, it does not suit us because it does not even touch our factors. That's why we have to get rid of that answer choice, and we will be left with answer choice A. I will be talking later in this video about the shortcuts of Desmos, so please keep watching, and I hope you enjoyed everything up until this part. Thank you for watching. So let's talk about this one shortcuts and in general how you should use your keyboards, what keys you should click, and so much more. So let's start with basic things such as how you can write the power sign, for example, 5 to the power of let's say 4. You, I will appear an image of keyboard in here. You have to click Shift and that button, and this will appear. But what if you don't have a keyboard, right? Maybe you're using an iPad. There's another option for this. There is a manual keyboard, and as well as you can click this as a keypad, I would say. And in this case, if you need a power of 2, you can just click it right away. But if you need a different power, just click this button and you can write which one you want. Basically, that's really simple. Another key feature would be writing the module signs. There are two ways. You can click this button. You have to hold Shift and press this button. I will show you. Uh, just click it and you can write whatever you want and click it again. This will be in module. So, what if you don't have a keyboard? All you have to do is just click in this button right here and it will also appear. Now, what if you need to write a root or a square root? Let's start with square root. If you're using keyboard, you can write SQRT and a square root will appear. But what if you need fourth root, not just the square root? In that case, you have two options. Using keyboard, you would ideally write N and then root. Okay, and then your root would appear. But for those who do not have keyboard, don't worry, Desmos covers you. You can always click functions and then scroll to the very end and click this button. It's the same thing. Yeah, it serves in the same way. Now, before I close this keypad, you can also type in the regression button using click ABC, and you can just click on the regression button, and that's it. A regression will appear. Now, let's talk about more technical stuff. For example, how do you let's say you have a coordinate and you want it to appear somewhere in here. The way you would write a coordinate is you first have to open just normal parentheses and then write your x value, for example, 3, and put a comma and then later on write your y value. Let's say it's 4. If I do so, a dot will appear. My coordinate would be somewhere in here. Now I can label it however I want. Let's say I want to call it A. And as you can see, it appears. And in case if you want to change this color, you can just press this and hold it up until this icon appears, and you can actually play with the colors and etc. Now, let's play with constants. Let's add a slider, and after we add a slider, we can actually change it. It's just a random value. We can assign any values that we want. But the built-in thing is from -10 up until to 10. But what if it's not enough? You can just click on this part, and this bottom icon will appear. Now, this is your minimum value. Let's say you want it to be -50, and then let's say you want your maximum value to be 100. And step basically means how much each time you're skipping. if I don't touch it, in this case, because we have big numbers, it will skip by one, right? But what if I needed to skip by five? And in that case, as you can see, it will be 50, 55, 60, 65, and so on. You can play with it, and I'm pretty sure you will get used to this. Apart from this, let's touch trigonometry. We can use sine, cosine, and you can also put different types of inputs and decimals. All you have to do is just write your name, sine, cosine, tan, and open the parentheses. You can write any values you want in here. Uh, they just will give you the between radians. Your output will be in radians. But what if you need in degrees? Here's one thing. If you can see this graph settings, please click on this. And now your built-in, it will be in radians for you in most of the time. So if you need to see your output in degrees, just click the degrees button and you will see them in degrees. And again, you can turn back at any time you want to radians. And also, what if you want to write pi? You can do so by writing T and I. It will just turn into a pi. But you can also use a keypad and just click this pi button right here,
And
and
just
it
click
will
this
do
pi
the
button
same
right here,
thing
and it
basically.
will do.
And besides this, you have three formulas. You can find mean, you can find standard deviation, but in order to find standard deviation, you would write it as TDEV. So STDEV, and again, open parentheses, I will write my values in there. And you can also, at the same time, find median. So let's actually find it. Okay, now let me create, I don't know, let's say just random numbers, then I write them, 1, 2, 4. Okay, and if I do write everything, I have to separate my numbers using a comma, and I will get that my mean, for example, equals to 3, my standard deviation, it equals to 1.58, and my median, it equals to 5. You can do whatever you want with it, play with it, and try to get used to it, basically. And please make sure that you know this trick. If you want to import something, for example, a to the power of 3 uh, x plus x, or 3x plus 2, let's say, you cannot just do by, again, using the first thing that I taught you, how you can write the power, and then say, for example, 3x plus 2. It will not allow me, because if I do so, plus sign, minus sign, that also will appear on the bottom part, so it does not refer to this. And in that case, all you have to do is just use the power sign and open parentheses before actually writing your power. And now you can write which power you would like to write, and it will work basically. And let's cover one more thing. What if you have a number, let's say, I don't know, this type of number, and you need to round it, and you're for some reason bad with rounding numbers. What you can do is you can use a Desmos built-in function called round, and it will just round the number for you and tell you the answer. But in this case, it will round it to the nearest whole number, which is 1234. But what if you needed to round to the nearest tenth? In this case, after you wrote your number, you would put a comma, and then because you need to write it in tenths, you would just put one. And after I do that, it will give me our number rounded to the tenth. But what if you need to write and what if you need to round it to the nearest hundreds? Then you just put write 2 instead of 1, and it will round you to the nearest hundreds, and it's the same thing for the nearest 1000. And yeah, it will be, for example, in this case, it will round it to the nearest 1000, and it will be 1234.435, basically. Okay, we'll end our video right here. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching. And yep, I hope that you learned something.